Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to get started with creating objects in TypeScript. And I'm going to try to keep this video as simple as possible. There are two ways, for starters, there are two ways of creating an object in TypeScript. We can create an object the same way we used to in JavaScript. And then we can let, in that manner, the TypeScript is going to infer the type. Or we can create what's called the shape of an object. And based on that shape, we can create as many objects as we want. Now, let's take a look at some examples so we can really understand what these two are and what are the ups and downs when using each method. So the first method is I'm just going to create an object. It's very simple. I'm sure you have created thousands of these kind of objects. I'm going to give it it doesn't matter what I write here. What matters is that I want it to have a type of string, and then I want to create a property that has a type of number. Now, we can see there is nothing being compiled. So let's jump into our terminal, and we can see it's not actually running. So I'm going to say tsc-w. Let's run that. There we go. Let's get out of there. So we can see it's basically the same thing. Let's hover on the course. It says let course, and then we can see the object declaration block. And within there, we have the property name, but the type is being inferred as string. And then we have the property name here, and for that, the type is number. So this is one way of creating an object in in TypeScript. If we want, we can actually take a look at the course's name. What the value for that is using the dot notation. I can take a look at the name. I can also take a look at the price. But what if we want to access a property that does not exist? For example, course.discount. And as soon as I do that, there is an error. It says property discount does not exist, untype this. So it has basically grabbed this entire thing within the declaration block. It is converted into a type, and it says this property doesn't exist on this type. So there is an error here, and it throws a type error. All right, so this is the first method. We are going to circle back to this error and how we can maybe provide some fixes to this error. The second method is creating the shape for an object. I'm going to comment this one out because we will be using the same object. The shape of an object is created using something called a type alias, and also something else that is called an interface. But I don't want to complicate these stuff. I don't want to complicate creating an object. So what I am going to do is I'm going to create the object, and I'm going to type annotate the object within, like in one go, within the same property declaration, within the same variable declaration. So for that purpose, I'm going to copy that, put it here, uncomment it. And so you remember where we used to put the property, the type annotation, it was right in front of the name of the variable. So we would do a colon, and then we will write what type of variable we want this, what type of value we want this variable to hold. Now, in this case, it's an object. So the shape has to resemble the shape of an object. So what is the first thing? What comes to mind when you create an object? What is the first thing that comes to the mind? It is a pair of curly braces, right? And then you remember when we hovered on that, we basically want to recreate that thing. So we have two variables. In this case, we have two properties. So the first one is name and the second one is price. I'm going to hit enter. So just to make it a little bit more readable, I'm going to say name. Now, what is the type of name? The type of name is string. And then do we have any other property? Yeah, price. And I could say the type of this, I want it to be a number. And now this is how you can create an object like using the second method. Now it could become a little bit confusing if the objects are longer, if they contain methods. That's where type aliases and interfaces come into the picture. We're going to talk about them in their separate videos. I just wanted to cover how you would go about this. Now, coming back to our error, it said that this property does not exist on this type. How would we go about that if we wanted to include it? So I have this object. It has a property name. It has a property price, but it doesn't have a discount. And maybe for this course, I don't want it to have a discount. But if I create another course, I want it to have that property. So I don't want it to be like a fixed property that has to be defined. So what I mean by that is if I say that the object created from this shape must have this property price, what happens if I remove that? We're going to see an error. And the error says property price is missing in type, this type, but is required in this type. So we are required to put it. So by the same token, if I were to write discount and maybe like whatever the type is, we are going to get the same error. Property discount is missing. It basically says this property is not included in here. It's not defined in here, but it is required here. So how can we make it not required? And that's where that's where a flag of TypeScript comes into the picture. TypeScript has several flags. We're going to talk about them. The first one is the optional flag, and that is basically a question mark. So if you put a question mark in front of a type, it makes it an optional type. That's why it's called an optional flag. This means that the object, in this case, the object created from this type could have the discount property, or it could not have it. And with this, our lecture comes to an end. See you in the next one.